Welcome to the Talking Shh podcast. That's right. We'll be talking about music, albums, live shows, bands we love, bands not so much. Again, we're talking shh. Join me, Scott Nokon, and Stephen James. Welcome to episode 25.
That's insane.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's like, it seems like just a minute ago, we're like, hey, do you want to do this? Yeah. Or you want to talk about anything? Let's just talk shh.
Yeah, exactly.
Which really is kind of where the name came from. It was more a matter of what should we do? Whatever we want. So Here we are 25 into it. Hope you guys have been enjoying the show. And again, listening, catching it maybe on 99 WNRR on Sundays at 7 p.m. Eastern. That's been on the last couple weeks. And Spotify, every Monday, a new episode rolls out. And Instagram, post and little links there, as well as on YouTube, a lot of video links and a lot of folks, I don't know, 3 months, give or take, that we've probably been doing this. I guess I could just say 25 weeks and make it easier, but it doesn't seem like it's that long at all. Stephen beforehand, and let me clarify what I was showing him. I was showing him my coffee cup, and he goes, God, and I go, well, it's an espresso. And he goes, that's a big cup. And of course, just the obligatory dad comment, well, that's what she said. But it really is. It's like, you know, it is a decent size. It's probably double the espresso size.
Yeah, maybe like
which
triple.
Is maybe like a 3-inch little, you know, draw. This is like 3-inch, Jesus, 3 ounces. Hey, you know what? I'm just going to get out right now. LinkedIn. Have you been on LinkedIn lately? Anyway,
multiply that times 3.
Yeah, obviously need a little kick me, please, to get going through the show. I know Stephen just got in from his gig not too long ago, so thanks for making the time. And here we are. So episode 25. We're actually going to get into our topic without kind of rambling, but before we introduce the topic, Stephen, I'm not going to just throw music news at you because we do it sporadically, but anything you want to tell the listening audience, anything new and exciting, just anything in general?
Well, my work week has been extremely busy, but I did see a new release from Armored Saint today on Metal Blade Records, and I'm not sure if it's a brand new song. I'm assuming it is, and I didn't have a chance to listen to the entire song. It's an interesting intro. Not as fast and in your face, but I liked it. That really is all the music news I know of. I really have been off the grid, unfortunately, this week with this, that, and the other. But how about you?
Yeah, I was just pulling it up right now where it's the... Okay, so they're doing a reissue of Revelation.
Is that what it is?
And La Raza on August 15th. And it's cool, like Metal Blade's been doing a really good job. And I don't want to say lately, I think they've done a really good job for years, but doing a lot of re-releases, and then you get the splatter images for vinyl. It's pretty cool. But yeah, there's a big announcement. I saw this the other day. So I guess on the next episode, we'll actually comment, and there's supposed to be a big announcement. So it could be, as I scroll in order, maybe it's the reissue of Revelation. Okay, there goes the talking. Revelation and La Raza. So that could be part of it. And then you're talking about some of the songs. They're also working on, you know, a record, right? And they're on tour right now. They're going to Europe and doing a European and UK summer tour. So that's kind of cool. And what else?
Oh, it's playing. The 2 songs that they had just released 8 hours apart from one another was The Pillar.
Okay.
And I don't know what just happened, but there were 2. But The Pillar was one that I had started today. And I don't know that I even heard that song because, I mean, I'm old school Armored Saint first album.
Yeah.
And you can tell John's voice anywhere when you hear him sing, even when he was with Anthrax. And again, wow, that guy, it sounds exactly like he did back in the 80s to this day.
Oh, totally. Yeah, I remember you said that on a few episodes back, and it's been mentioned before, so I'll just say it again really quick. John Bush, Jeff Scott Soto, Jeff Tate, those are my 3 favorite singers of all time. And yeah, John Bush, again, I'm old school Armored Saint, like what he did in Anthrax. But yeah, back with Armored Saint, has been back for a number of years now. It's really cool. So yeah, I guess in looking at this, The Pillar is just part of the re-release.
Yeah, and the other song was Head On.
Yeah.
And
So from 1991,
yeah,
I guess it was approached by the producers for Hellraiser. They wrote a song for the end credits of the movie.
Great movie.
So we wrote The Pillar, which they passed on. Instead, they decided to go with Hell on Earth by Motorhead.
Okay, interesting.
However, that song was on that record, Revelation, which again was re-released or will be re-released. So there we go. So
that's interesting to bring up Motorhead. I was just actually looking at some old Filthy Phil drumming overkill from back in the day with the double bass drum, which we were talking many episodes back about double bass drums that influenced me, and that was one of the other songs that was part of that. Oh, hey, what's going on here? So Filthy Phil. Way off topic, but you mentioned Motorhead, so I had to throw that thing in.
No, for sure. So let's just jump in and introduce the topic.
Ooh.
And I shouldn't complain about this. And before I do, I'm not complaining. I'm really not complaining. But I'm up in the Talking studio, NoCon studio.
It is a NoCon studio.
I'm freezing my ass off.
It's like nice.
Yeah, it's been so hot outside, and so when it's hot, why not just crank the air inside, right? Oh my! Let me tell you, it was like probably mid 60s, which doesn't seem cold, but in a room, it's freezing. So that's why I have the sweatshirt on tonight, because I walked upstairs, and it's funny, like there's different climate zones in the house. So you go over that way, it almost feels 20 degrees warmer, and then you come over here, then you go downstairs, it's like, we probably need to have our air conditioning probably looked at, though it's not old at all.
No.
Anyway, it's nice and cool and refreshing, but today it's cold.
So I had gotten home, usually I have it set at 78, and I got home and I walked in and I was like, why is it 80 degrees in here? And somebody had messed with the controls. I'm not sure who, as my
must have been a cat
better half walked by. And so it's been quite warm in here. And so it's gradually been cooling. But when you walk into a house and it's 80, you're like, hey, how you doing?
Yeah.
I finally it's starting cooling down. Plus I have a wonderful drumming fan. Not a person, but an actual.
Yeah, I thought like a little mini.
Groupies were back in the 80s. Those days are over.
Are they gone now? You don't hear about it.
No idea.
The same, right? Yeah.
No idea.
Yeah, I couldn't relate back then. I can't relate now. So anyway, right. So let's just introduce the topic before we get in trouble. So the topic this week, and probably for a couple shows, just knowing how Stephen and I just like to talk and
ramble on.
Yeah. Van Halen. So what I did is I've gone back and I listened to everything. Now, order doesn't matter, but it kind of worked out that way. I worked my way up to 5150 on my way home today. Let's just kind of go through the records. I'll introduce them just title and year really quick, and then we'll kind of get into the down and dirty, as they say, right, on each one.
But I have a little bit of history on both, on the first two, and I won't make it long, but I'll let you fire it off.
So I'm going to name them, and then with the year, then we can get into what we like or dislike. How's that? Yeah. So 78. So really just, I'm going to do the albums, I'm going to stick to it, and then back with the history, because they were a band a few years before their record, which is not unheard of, but
Bald, Mammoth
at the very beginning. Yeah. So 1978, Van Halen, self-titled. 9, Van Halen 2. 80, Women and Children First. I thought I would make it through all the titles.
I thought it was going to be Wimbledon and Children First.
Yeah, it is Wimbledon and Churros first. So Women and Children First.
So you hit the tennis ball with a churro.
You do.
And if you don't break the churro and get it over the net, you're good.
So could it be a churro then with a circle waffle that looks more like a, looks like a tennis racket, but it might be more of a, what's that? The smaller ones? Badminton. There we go. How we go from Van Halen to badminton to waffles to churros. Hey, that's what you get here in Talking Shh. 1981, Fair Warning, my favorite Van Halen record, by the way. 82, Diver Down. 94,
Amazing.
Switch and Singers. 86, 150, 88, OU 812. Yes, you did. 91 for Unlawful Carnal Knowledge. I almost got through that. Or fuck, there. 95, Balance. 1998, another singer change, Van Halen 3. We'll talk about that too. And then 2012, A Different Kind of Truth. Those are the main studio albums released during their career, spanning from their debut. And we mentioned this when we talked about Maiden Records and Sabbath as well on previous episodes. 78, 79, 80, 81, 82. Skipped 83, went to 84. Like right there. And what's that? 7 years, 6 records. And listening through them, and I'll throw it over to you, Stephen, now to talk about the first 2. But before that, damn good records. Really, it's like, again, I've always loved Van Halen and definitely the Roth era, but over the last number of years now, much more of an appreciation for Sammy in Van Halen. Going through 5150 today, I'm like, all right, this harkens back to some of the early days of Van Halen, and there was even some upper tempo songs, kind of the radio hits we're talking about. But I'm like, damn it, you know what? They did themselves justice. So let's jump back now to 78. But before we do, again, like you said, Mammoth was the original name. Formed in Pasadena, 1972. Wow. The early days of Van Halen. And Mammoth and Genesis. It's not like there was another band called Genesis at the same time.
That's
so probably wise to move on from that. But really, what became the classic lineup was 74 when Michael Anthony joined.
Yeah, and interesting. I don't know if it's subliminal because Sammy's doing a tour right now with all of his hits, which were a lot of Van Halen and a lot of his when it was Montrose and a couple of Montrose and his single days. And it amazed me to hear him still at, God, what is he, 72 or 3? I'm sure you can look that up right now. And I wouldn't be willing to bet that they tuned down a little bit and he can sing it a little bit differently. But I watched a little bit of video of it yesterday, and he just kills. He's got Joe Satriani playing guitar, who is an Eddie icon. What do you call it? Anyhow, and Michael Anthony, and I wanted to circle back to Michael Anthony because I heard a story that when they were first bringing him in, Eddie had talked about he didn't even know how to play, that they had to teach him how to play. And when you watch him play today, I'm like, I find that hard to believe because he's an underrated bass player. He can really pull it off. When you listen to some of these songs and listen to what's going on, maybe Eddie wrote those bass lines and quite possibly played them and showed him. I don't know. But Michael Anthony is a really good bass player.
Absolutely. Yeah. And how's this to kind of blow your mind? Sammy Hagar now, and he has a birthday coming up in the middle of October. He's 76.
Jesus.
Right now, he's 76.
And still rocking on stage, the Red Rocker.
Yeah. So and cool. So it is, the Best of Both Worlds tour.
Yeah.
Which, as you described, it's, Hagar, it's Van Halen tracks. We know that because we heard, right? Michael Anthony's going to sing some of the older Van Halen songs. Again, one, because he can. Is it that Sammy doesn't want to sing them? Or in this case, maybe it's just a good break in the set. It's probably that, right? That's coming up in, middle July, give or take. By the time we air, that show would have happened, but I'm going to go see them in downtown in Nashville. They're playing at the arena, and I'm going to be on the road next week. And I missed by one day. They're playing in DC, so I can't get there, one night earlier. But I'm like, oh, that sucks. That would have been cool to see them in a different city. The last time I was up in DC. Now we'll give travel talk, right, for 5 minutes. That was when Bruce Dickinson was on tour with his spoken word. And again, by the time I got in, I saw across from my hotel the marquee. I'm like, son of a, I'm like, oh, because it was already, the show had already started.
Right.
And again, Alexa just turned on again for some reason. So
Ghost in the Machine.
Hopefully it'll go off. But yeah, like you were saying, the, kind of when they started. So in that, the self-titled record, what stands out to you? And again, I want you to, I kind of alluded to my favorite record. I want you to also name yours, but starting with the self-titled, what kind of stands out?
So I was at my grandparents' house. They lived in San Pedro. My grandfather was a high-end attorney, downtown LA attorney. They had a house overlooking Catalina, beautiful. And my cousin was kind of the clown, older, and always made us laugh. And he's like, hey, come out to my car. I want you to hear something. And so we're like, okay. And we went out to his car and he put the cassette in of the first Van Halen album. And it started off with Eruption. And I was blown away by it. I was like, wow.
Yeah.
I mean, it literally kind of, it's kind of like some of the songs and memories I've talked about that's actually pushed me back in my seat that said, this is so cool. I remember exactly where I was. I remember where the sun was. I remember everything. And it was like, it just sparked an interest. It was like, that is the coolest thing ever. And we actually sat in his car and listened to the entire I would say album on a cassette.
Yeah.
And that was my first introduction in 1978.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I was 11 years old.
Okay. I was a couple years younger. Not that it matters, but no. I don't have an initial memory of that first record. Not till later. And I think I went back once I came Fair Warning, then I went backwards and got more into Van Halen, because that would have been when I was 11 years old.
Sure.
When Fair Warning came out. So must be something about 11 years old and you get dialed into it. But
absolutely.
That record, again, Running with the Devil, they did a number of covers over the years, and they always worked to me.
Absolutely.
You Really Got Me from the Kinks was really cool, with some more innovative, guitar that Eddie threw in there, which at the time he was just amazing, and people didn't probably know what they even were experiencing. The tapping, the harmonics, and what wasn't there stories in the clubs that he would turn his back?
Yeah, he would.
Didn't
I was
want
just
people
say
to
that.
see. Yeah,
he would turn his back so they couldn't see what he was doing. And this guy mastered hammering. And I mean, everybody. And interesting. I don't want to poo-poo anybody, but everybody's like, Jimi Hendrix was the best. Eric Clapton was the best in their era. Yes, they were.
Yeah.
And you can't compare one to another. Jimmy Page, Led Zeppelin. Oh, he was the best. To me, the best guitar player I've ever heard and known is Eddie Van Halen. Out of all of them, can do circles, and I'm not even a guitar player. I can play guitar, but I'm not a guitar player. The things that he could do on that guitar was amazing. And then when he finally turned front and you could just see him doing all these different things, it was like, wow, amazing.
Oh yeah, no, it truly is incredible, and just the ability he has. Just again, it's like it's beyond anything. And that was one of the bands. We've talked about this before, bands that you can't see, and clearly, Eddie's now been dead a number of years, but even at that, I only one time saw Van Halen, and that was in the Monsters of Rock during the Sammy Hagar. So again, I missed it being able to go to shows earlier on when I was younger. I didn't start going until I was 14, so right. I basically missed the entire Roth era of Van Halen, and that's fine. You don't really know it at the time.
No.
So.
No. Not at all. And then segue into Van Halen 2, which actually is my all-time favorite record, because at 11, I had already been playing drums for a few years, and that's when I picked up going, wow, I like the drums to these songs. I mean, when you listen to, you can go all of them. And actually, my very first introduction to playing an independent beat, as it were, was Dance the Night Away with the cowbell beginning, where the two measures are different and the other two measures are
Yeah.
opposite of that. And that's when I was like, okay, cool, let me do this. And then as I started listening to each song, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, Out of Love Again, Light Up the Sky, where it just blew me away. I was like, what is he doing? How does this drummer do it? And again, the same thing with Eddie. I mean, the songs and what he was doing, even Spanish Fly, when he does the which what I think was the slap in the face about him doing finger taps and they thinking it was fake. He was actually doing
Right.
it on an
Yeah.
acoustic guitar.
Yeah. No, it was awesome. And again, revisiting their catalog, most of the catalog, um, on the way to and from work. Again, Van Halen I've listened to many, many, many times. Van Halen 2, I remember you had mentioned that. And again, knowing the record, I have it on vinyl. I went ahead and pulled up my Apple Music. And yeah, just Dance the Night Away, just such a great song. Just, there's something, for me, you can't help but smile listening to Van Halen because it sounds so effortless. The sound was just so pure. The production of Tom Worman was fantastic. And what they were doing, it's like the amount of bangers year after year after year that they put out. You go from the, you got your entire lifetime to write your first record, and then they had to turn around. You got Beautiful Girl, Somebody Get Me a Doctor. The other tracks you mentioned in Van Halen too. It's like, God, that's such a good record.
It's a great record.
Yeah,
it's a great record. And we got not to give Gene Simmons any more money than he already has, but he was kind of the one to, in the beginning, to kind of elevate them to, and you probably know more of that about recording and getting them. I think, was it that he saw him play at the Roxy or something like that, and folded them into getting signed or whatever.
And I think someone tried to, and maybe it was the band, and I didn't pull that up, but if there was some debunking of that.
Oh, really?
Sure, but I think
I would be surprised.
I think what was true was that he saw them, and it very well could be the whiskey. And I'm gonna go ahead and pull that up because I think that's a fun story.
That is a good, this is good.
Gene Simmons.
So here, let me read something real quick while you're looking up. Van Halen recorded demos of 10 songs in November '76 during sessions at Village Recorders in West LA, New York. Electric Lady Studios, which is very popular, produced and financed by Gene Simmons of Kiss.
Yeah. So I think that was, he had some demos that he personally financed and produced. So I think that was where he did the demos for them. Yeah. And then that was kind of the significance, right, of what he was able to contribute.
So interesting that also says that Bill Aucoin, who was a big, huge Kiss guy, big cokehead, of course, too, if we want to look into that. That was a little random. Declined to manage the band. Guitarist Eddie Van Halen was not convinced of the quality of the material because they could not make the recordings with their own equipment. Simmons left to tour with Kiss after recording demos, but said he would try to secure Van Halen a record deal afterwards.
Yeah.
Did that happen? Who knows?
No, I don't think
I don't think he needed them.
No, because at that point, then there was already notoriety
the other way.
In what they were doing. So yeah, did he help kind of bring them up a little bit? Sure, right, and getting some studio time and putting those songs together. Sure, but
and plus, Gene was wearing a handkerchief over his face the whole time, so you couldn't see who he was back then.
Yeah, exactly. Going into 1980, again, I love the fact year after year after year, like back to back to back. Record tour. And when you're young and just full of piss and vinegar, right? And you're getting some money in the bank finally, and you're running around and probably doing crazy stuff. Again, that's your job, make music. So I guess
absolutely.
That's a pretty good motivator, right? So by this time, and I'm going to bring in some facts on women and children first as well, but a couple songs that stands out. Everybody Wants Some, In the Cradle Will Rock. Fools. Again, just the sound of the record was so good. It just really enjoyed enjoyed listening to those. Some peak album positions. First Van Halen on Billboard, it went up to number 19 and it sold 10 million records. It's plus now, 10 million plus. Van Halen 2 peaked at number 6, 5 million plus. Women and Children First, 6, 4 million plus. So, at that point, you're pretty established. You're at, 20 million plus, and that's in the United States. So overall, when you get into worldwide sales, maybe double that after your third record, or through your third record. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, and I know we're gonna get shy of time here pretty quickly, but we'll get ready to jump on the next session with what looks like Fair Warning, which I think that is the quintessential to me, which broke into more. I don't consider Van Halen heavy metal.
No,
they're not heavy metal. They're hard rock for sure. Okay, and 7's my favorite number, and so that I really enjoy that they're in their own class of music. What happened in their whole dichotomy of this Swerve and Turds and Tails and Dave and quitting and different singers and this and that, it was the evolution of what they did. There's rumors about how their egos, Alex and Eddie's egos were this and that. And there's always this stupid rumor about M's. I don't know why. But as a type of Van Halen, I think Fair Warning was probably, to me, the senior version of a high school rock and roll album. I don't know if that's your thought.
Yeah. It's again going from each one. When you get into Fair Warning, it's to me, comparatively speaking, now going back to, and it's more recent in my ears and in my mind, it definitely rocks, if I can say the term. It rocks, but there was kind of a dirtier feel to it. It was kind of raw. Again, Unchained is my all-time favorite song.
Such a great song, and a fun song to play on drums.
Absolutely, yeah. And so just all that, it just makes you like really just happy to listen to. You hope that certain music's gonna kind of pull some certain emotion out of you, but really just love those songs. Mean Street, when it starts the record off with that. So This Is Love, and I know that with the bass coming right into it.
Yeah.
You just know those songs, and you know what's going to happen next. Like we've heard them so many times, and that was just just such a good freaking record. And with that, 81 Fair Warning, that actually had a higher Billboard position peak than 2 and Women and Children. Actually, at this point, it's their highest charting record. Number 5. It's their least selling record until you get to Van Halen 3, which maybe we'll spend 10 seconds on. I think part of it was because it was, I wouldn't say a major departure, but it was slightly different than what maybe people got accustomed to with Van Halen.
Sure.
Right? And so with that being a little heavier, a little darker, some I don't know who these people are, but have said that maybe it's their least favorite, whereas for me, it's my favorite. But it all comes down to just, the rawness and the feel and what it brings. One record that I wasn't sure how I felt about it, and some say it was kind of rushed and thrown together. And again, when you're going back to back to back to back, and by the time you get into 1982, the 5th year of putting out records, 5th year of touring, and let's hit on some of their tours really quick, which kind of will detail out how expansive it was. 78 world tour, then they were opening for Sabbath, and in no time at all, and there's stories I've heard where, pretty much at any number of arenas, but Madison Square Garden, where I guess historically, people that would go there always knew, don't show up for the opening band. It doesn't matter, just go for the main, if it was metal and rock, that's who you wanted to see. Well, there was this buzz of this newer band that was going to open for Sabbath, and everybody showed up, and it was Van Halen. And at that point, did they blow Sabbath off the stage? That's what you hear, and they started doing shows all across the world, and that's the tour that, took them to Japan, and we've talked about Queensryche and other bands of recording in Japan, and just the impact is like they love their music, and you can make it there. You make a big difference. The 79 tour, pretty much just an extension. They're going North America, Europe, Australia for the first time. 80s, the 80 Invasion tour on the third record with Women and Children, North America and Europe. Fair Warning in 81, North America and Europe. So it's like how many miles did they log in their first few years, right? It's got to catch up to you. Hide Your Sheep tour, 1982. That was in support of the Diver Down record. To me, I wasn't really sure about that record at first.
I wasn't either.
Again, I listened to it again yesterday, and I'm okay. There's good songs on here for sure. There's good songs. Kind of recap a couple of them really quick here.
If you're gonna do a cover album,
Pretty Woman, Dancing in the Street, which I thought, and I couldn't remember who it was, and now I see it was Martha and the Vandellas cover. Dancing in the Street, Little Guitars, fantastic song. So there's that appreciation, but along the road of those first 4 records going into the 5th, if you're going to put a placement, that would have been the 5th out of the 5 records, with Fair Warning being number 1, Self-Titled being number 2, Van Halen 2, then Women and Children first, then Diver Down.
Thanks again for tuning in to the show. We'll be back every week with a brand new episode. Make sure you check us out on Instagram at Talking Show, and also listen on Spotify or wherever you can stream a podcast. See ya.